Next answer.
Yeah, man. I answered correctly,
Good
didn't
one.
I?
All right. Hello, friends. Welcome to season 1, episode 6 of A Sound Conversation, a monthly podcast where we chat with insightful guests about life, music, and the business of both. I'm your host, Paapa, and as usual, I have a stutter or stammer, so there will be a few awkward pauses, and that's okay. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and leave a review or comment on whichever platform you're enjoying this on. It helps me to make this show better and helps the show reach more people who might also enjoy this. Okay, enough about all that. Let's get into today's episode, which is a very, very special one for me. Today's guest is one of the best people on this planet. He is a radio personality, head of content at a TV station that is MX24. He's a voice artist and a serial entrepreneur. He's co-founded a streaming platform, PR firm, an environmental NGO, a snacks and beverage company. I mean, this guy is unstoppable. But what makes him so special to me is how big of a mind and heart he has. He gladly uses his platforms to support and amplify Ghanaian artists, especially up and coming ones. As a matter of fact, there's no way that my music would have the reach it's had without Antoine believing in my work over a decade ago and giving it so much airplay. He's interviewed me several times over the past decade, and this whole podcast is just me trying to do my best impression of him. Friends, help me welcome the one and only Antoine Mensah to the show. Antoine, or as one
Woohoo!
YouTube video I watched said, Anthony Mensah. Welcome to the show, bro.
Yo, thank you so much, my bro. That was some intro,
Welcome to the
man.
show.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, man. Glad to be here. It's been a long
Of
time
course,
coming.
man. All
Yeah.
facts, no cap. And you
Mm.
know it yourself. So, actually, on that note, let me ask you, how would you describe yourself?
Yo. Uh Interesting question, man. I a while ago I probably would have, you know, you know, described it or answered that in quite a number of ways. But now I just think
Yeah,
I'm that guy connecting the dots.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your hands are in so many different pies. Um,
Yeah.
and you've accomplished so much already in your career in radio and TV and PR.
Um I think to be honest, I just in thinking about it, because I mean, you some people would say this. You just said it, that I've achieved a lot, and in hindsight, there are times when I just think back and I really ask myself, have you really achieved that much? What have you
Hmm,
really done? And in reflecting and thinking about that question, because
hmm,
every now and then, as a man, you need to do that. Whoever you are, you need to do that. You need to pause and reflect,
yeah,
because everybody's got goals, and I had my own personal goals, and to some extent I felt, at the age of 30,
right.
clocking 30, that there's a lot of that I hadn't achieved, right? So you're thinking back, and in not being too
Hmm,
hard on
hmm,
yourself, you're thinking, what have I been able to achieve? And the one thing that stood strong in
hmm,
all of
right.
it was supporting so many ideas, and being the guy that was instrumental in bringing a lot of these
Hmm,
ideas, and most of them not really mine, to be honest, to life, and seeing the
right.
impact
Hmm,
that these ideas
interesting.
had on the everyday lives of people. And that's what actually led me to
Yeah,
recognize and realize what my purpose is. And it's playing that supportive
that's
role,
awesome.
being a blessing.
That's beautiful. Anyone who has been in radio would probably confess that at some point they dabbled in music themselves. Is
Yeah,
that true for you? Like, did you ever
hundred
think, okay,
percent,
maybe
bro.
let me do the rap thing? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, bro. I honestly
What was your
feel
rap
the
named?
reason why you won't believe it. It was Lil Saint, and I tell you where I got
Lil,
it from.
yeah.
Lil Saint. I got it from. Where did I get it from? I got it
I
from
love
this.
it.
This dance movie that had Omarion. What's Marcus Houston? I forget what the movie is called. It was this dance movie. It
Um,
came out back then. It was really really cool, man. It was
Me
it was
too.
about hip hop dance and all of that. But then yeah, it was one of those dance movies. There was this guy called Little Saint in it. I think Little Saint died or so, but his death inspired the team to push on and actually
Mm.
win. And whatever it was, I
Love
was
it.
just so inspired by it that when I started rapping in JSS, um, that's the name I went by. Funny
Yeah.
enough, I was part of a rap group. So there was PG and there was Chico, who way down the line became my business partner
Oh,
in a lot of the entertainment and music stuff that I did. His name is Roland. So together we were YRS, the
nice.
Young Rap
Hmm.
and R&B Stars. Charlie, imagine. So I used to write music. I used to sing. I
Love
used
it.
to rap. I used to write poetry.
Huh.
And I think the reason why I'm so appreciative of artists and I feel pulled to support young talent is because at a point in time when I was doing it, there was so much support that I felt I could have had that I didn't have. So if I'm in a position, you know,
Hmm.
that I was
Hmm.
going knocking the doors that I am in now. It's I remember those days and I go like, yo,
Yeah.
if the stuff is good, why not? So why not open the doors that I used to knock back in the day? So yes, I did
Why not?
music, bro.
Yeah.
It was very short lived, and I'll tell you why I stopped. So I after I think it was
Okay.
after GSS, or probably first year in SS or something like that. Or between that time, there was this. I was still
Hmm.
listening to radio back then. I had no plans of actually being on radio, but music was a heavy part of my plans. Like I wanted to be
Hmm.
an artist, the whole 9 yards, bro. So there was this competition on Choice FM. It was one of the weekend night shows, and they were looking for rappers. You call in, you freestyle, and then you
Hmm.
get into the competition. I did it. I freestyled. They loved it. I was on the phone back then. You didn't have,
Yeah.
it wasn't cell phone. The only people with cell phones are your parents. So you were using the landline. Those are the days that your friends
Right.
call the
Right.
landline and they ask to speak to you and stuff. So I used the landline, call the radio station. So you can imagine how hard
Yeah.
it was back then to actually call into a
Wow.
radio station with a landline. But I did.
Yeah.
Spit a few
Wow. Yeah.
bars. They loved it, got into the
You
competition.
agree?
Fast forward, got into the last 10 of the competition. And then this one time it's the finals,
Wow.
and the finals is happening at the radio station. And fun fact, the DJ who was DJing during that competition went on to become my DJ when I was on radio as
Uh
DJ
huh.
Master J. So Master J,
Oh,
a lot of people
really?
know
That's
Antoine and Master
crazy.
J off the drive time. So Master J was actually the DJ
Yeah.
on the show when I was in that competition. My dad goes to drop me, and when he
Yeah.
was taking me, I had my cap on forward. So the cap on was, I think I have a cap on, yeah, yeah. So my cap on was
Right. Right.
on
Right.
like this, right, like this,
Yeah.
and when I went into the
Yep.
studio, so my dad was a bit skeptical about this whole thing, because I do come from a very respectable family, I wouldn't say religious, but
Sure.
spiritual
Sure.
in that extent. Like a lot of other,
Sure.
people had in those times. And then, so my dad was a bit skeptical about it, like the rap game, all this hip hop R&B thing. During those days, the truth about hip hop had fresh come out. So yeah, people were on their guard.
Oh
And
gosh.
I
Oh
when I was
gosh. Yeah.
rapping,
Don't even
right,
remind me
in the
about that thing.
studio, yes, yeah. When I was rapping in the
Yeah.
studio, because the microphone is in front of you, your cap can't really be like this because it's gonna keep hitting the microphone.
Uh huh.
So you got to turn it around and wear it like this, right? So that it's just you and the microphone.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's what I had done. Finished. I was in the top three. I moved to the finals. So that was the semifinals. Moved to the finals, and I came back out of the radio station. My dad was there to pick me up, and I big him up for that because, my dad has been one of those parents who wants to be involved in their children's lives at
Yeah.
every stage away from
Right.
education. Like if there's talent, I'm there to support you. So he was there to pick me up.
Yeah.
And when I came out, he saw,
That's
I
beautiful. That's
my
beautiful.
cap was backwards. So the impression was, oh, all this yo-yo thing don't enter your head. Like now
Why you
what?
whole gangster? Why you whole
Yeah,
gangster, Bisa?
gangster, gangster. Oh, Charlie, man, I'm a whole gangster. So I got home. Interesting family meeting, bro. Family meeting, and my dad congratulates me. He's like, "Yes, you're in the finals now. That's nice." But he just wants to be honest with me. He doesn't see his son being on stage with sagging pants, holding his crutch and
Mm.
doing yo-yo. That's really not what he pictured for his son. And yeah, I was peeved, bro. I was
Interesting.
very upset. I remember that conversation so well,
Mm.
like it was yesterday. And like any young person, I really felt like, oh, this is
Wow.
the one thing I want to do, and my dad won't support me. I felt like that. But along down the line, I kind of,
Mm.
you need to understand where they're coming from as well. Your parents are always gonna want the best for you. And at that
Right.
time, I mean, let's be honest, it's
Sure.
easy for anybody involved in music. It comes with a whole lot of decisions that, you're either doing and being clean, or you can easily get influenced into going the negative route. So I'm sure, like
Right.
any other parent, they'd be worried. Is this gonna
Right.
be my son? Is he gonna go
Yeah.
AWOL with this music thing? So the best thing to
Yeah.
do is just and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hadn't finished high school. There was university and all that. So in hindsight, I'd say that meeting or that
Mm.
decision opened my eyes to other opportunities, you know,
Mm.
for my life. And here I am today,
Yeah.
doing a lot of other things. So yeah, man.
Love it.
I used
Love
to
it.
be a
Love it. So I
musician.
guess yeah, I've always had a sense because you've always loved like this art form specifically,
Yeah.
just even how you approach the questions you ask to other artists, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense why you've been able
Yeah.
to build so many bridges with other artists because you are one you're yourself. But I guess in a different light, just looking at everything else that you have also accomplished
Mm.
in your business life as
Yeah.
well. I guess would you consider yourself an artist or entrepreneur? Is there a difference? How would you answer that?
I think there's an art to it. I think a big part of
Okay.
entrepreneurship is spotting a challenge and then creating a solution for that challenge. And I think people who are
Yeah.
artists at the core have an advantage in creating the solution or being innovative
Mm.
enough to make sure that you have it there's a breath of fresh air to every idea that you bring
Mm-hmm.
up. And I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
advantage I have as
Right.
an entrepreneur who's a creative at heart as well. And just quickly to go back to the music thing,
Mm.
a lot of times when I think back, it actually started
Yeah.
way before that, because as young as 5 or 6, I was doing piano lessons, saxophone, guitar very early.
Mm.
Then took a break from all of that
Wow.
before deciding to be an artist on the rapper side of things. And again, I give props to my dad and my mom, for
Mm-hmm.
for being instrumental enough to say, hey, let's put him on instruments and let's encourage him. So the love is from there. So being a
Yeah.
creative at heart, you apply the
Mm.
principles of business, whatever you're interested in, and the rest is magic. The other thing that I think is important, and I realized early, was it's not enough to be a creative and be passionate about starting your own company or getting into business. There's a business to it that
Right.
you need to take some time out to study, learn. You need to
Yep.
figure out the numbers. You need to be able to analyze, project. And I realized that at
Yep.
some point, and that's when I decided, hey, let me take a break from being a passionate artist to the core and actually study this business thing so
Mm-hmm.
that my
Mm-hmm.
businesses in the field of art can be
Mm.
successful, or can make sense. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. So I guess what has been the one uh significant thing you've learned about the business side of maybe not just radio or TV, but media in general?
Numbers count. Like there's one thing. It's not enough to just be creative. It's not enough for it just to look cool and nice and attract people. It has to make
Yeah.
business sense in order for it
Right.
to live long. I mean, there's a word for it. In order for it to, I don't know, man. It's just skip
Yeah.
me. But then it has to make, if you want it to last long, you want it to be there forever, it has to make business sense.
Right.
That's the one thing I've learned, and that has sunk in my
Yeah.
head. So I look at something, it looks amazing, it looks great. But at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make sure I can keep creating this? And for me, it was a hard lesson because I kept doing these really cool events, these really cool concerts at Allianz. Um, but as passionate as I
Yeah.
was as an artist and the music enthusiast, I didn't mind investing my own money into it. No, I didn't mind. I didn't mind, going
Right.
to the radio station day in
Right.
day out. And I understand there was a lesson to it, but working for free to a certain extent in my life because I was passionate about going
Right.
on air and playing so much music. But you get to a point, and for me to
Right.
continue opening doors for other artists, playing their music, and enjoying this, it needs to make business sense. And business sense is the radio station has to make enough
Right.
money to be able to pay me so that I can keep coming on air. Because what's going to happen
Right.
is I'm going to dry up and
Keep
I'm going to
doing
have
it.
to
Yeah.
focus on other businesses that bring me money. And, that's my career down the line, my whole radio interest it goes. So it became okay, I love radio, I
Yeah.
love playing music. They can't pay me. Why can't they pay me? Oh, they can't
Mm.
pay me because there's not enough revenue coming in. How can I help them make more revenue? Well, keep coming, keep reading these LPMs, keep doing great.
Right.
But beyond that, what can I do? Oh, I've got ideas on how you can market my show. How much is it gonna bring? Then then you go for
Right.
meetings and pitches, and what the clients tell you is how many people are listening to you, at what time are they listening to you. So gradually I
Mm.
started learning and
Mm-hmm.
then doing some more research and realizing that hey, it's not enough to be super cool on radio.
Mm.
You've got to survive. The business has to survive.
Right. Right. I think that's almost identical thing that artists also have to think about, right? Whether we
Mm-hmm.
like it or not, we are in the media or entertainment business, one or the other.
Yeah,
And so I think needing to understand that aspect is just as crucial as needing to understand your art form itself if you want longevity with the art form.
yeah,
So that makes a lot of sense. And so with your life in media and the media business, every entrepreneur would confess that they, even if they've had so many wins or successes, they've also had many failures. Um,
yeah.
can you talk about just one failure that you've had that really stung, and I guess how, like, what's your approach to failure?
I can't think of it now, but I mean, generally in hindsight, if I
Okay.
look back and think, what could I have
Yes.
done better? It would have been to save
Mm.
a lot more. To save to just slow down.
Save a lot more.
Um, Definitely slow down, save a lot more financially, and then not because a lot of times you're creative, right? So the money
Hmm.
comes, and you push it into the next idea. No,
Right.
let's do this. You go, you do it. You're excited. You're in that time of your
Right.
life, and again, doing that caused me to fail some more and understand some more, and learn some more and be where I am today. But in hindsight, it would have been that better better financial management, or for a more general expression, better project management, managing all the projects I was in and the people around
Mm.
me a lot better is what I would have done. Yeah, I just think it's something that I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
do too well of the number side, the business side of it as early
Mm.
as I was in it. But I'll say it again, me failing at that pushed me to desire.
you you have so many ventures, so many, um,
Ah,
but you are most known for radio. And
yes, sir.
in fact, even though you stepped away from radio ventures, I know you have a quiet gig on a radio station in
Yeah,
Ghana, Atlantis.
I like actually quiet. Yeah,
That's not so quiet anymore.
no, it's not.
Can you take me back the moment you fell in love with radio? Because you obviously love radio. And what is it
Yes,
about radio that you love?
man. So again, again, I'll just take it back to and me realizing what I'm telling you. It's just very recent. Just very recently, I started. I've always told myself
Yeah.
to connect the
Hmm.
dots, encourage myself to do so. But it's only very recently that I really pieced
Mm-hmm.
everything
Right.
together. And I'll say my love for radio, I would have loved to think came up when I was in, Presec, and I started listening to you. I got the chance to intern, but it really didn't. I've always loved listening to radio without the
Hmm.
thought of being on radio.
Hmm.
But what you surround yourself with, what you continue to listen to, it builds up in you some way, somehow. And when you find yourself in a position where you have the
Right.
talent and you can deliver, all those years of closely listening, learning, and monitoring,
Yeah.
unknown to you that you were learning, just adds up to become
Right.
who adds up to the level of talent that you hold during that time. I I'd been listening to radio, man, as far
Right.
back as
Right.
before we moved to Ghana. Radio was that's why I'd listen to all the Cools, all the Phil
Hmm.
Collins, all the Anita Baker. Everything was from
Cools.
radio, from a proper radio set where you put in the
Yeah.
cassette. That's where I record all my favorite rappers and musicians. When the day came and I got that call from my friend, who told me, "Listen, Antoine, I'm doing some work." She was interning with a company that was rebranding Choice FM at the time, and then she
Yeah.
said, "Listen, they need
Hmm.
new people. They're looking for people to work here." And back at school, I'd say this all the time. We'd been doing free night calls, and there was this one time she said, "You know what? You sound really good on radio if you're on radio because
Hmm.
of your nighttime voice and all those things." So when
Yeah.
it
I
got to
feel
that
you.
point,
I know.
for me to go into a studio and record a demo, it came super easy because I'd heard it being done
Yeah.
so many times. I knew the music, I knew when to
Hmm.
go in, I knew when to play a jingle, I knew how to introduce a new song, and all this came
Hmm.
from listening to radio over and over again. So I did it in no
Yeah.
time, sent it in, they loved it,
Right.
did some
Right.
internship there. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love with it because
That's beautiful. It's so interesting how two people can experience the same thing but be inspired very differently. Because I have also
yes.
loved radio, but my
Mm,
response to it was very different. Right? I said, "Wow!" Like
mm,
just that feeling of hearing a song that really connects with you, saying, "Man, like I want to produce that thing to have
yeah.
that connection." And you
Yeah.
were hearing
Yeah.
the like you were learning the art of the platform that that music was on, and now here
Yep.
you are. So it's just very very fascinating to see how two people can experience the same thing but respond
Mm,
in very different ways. And and also now having done, this is my sixth episode of the show, and so
man.
I've said over and over again that you had so many ventures, right? And you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier about how like you've been in this and
Mm-hmm.
in looking back you have realized that yes, like this is like I, I am succeeding in what I've always been doing and I'm meant to do. But I think for all
Yeah.
of us, we might also have some zenith, something that
Impact. I've realized it's impact. A lot of
impact.
times impact. When you hear until date, I meet people, I get DMs, and I get people who hit me up and tell me of a point of inspiration they had from one moment or one show that I
Hmm.
did back in the day. Sometimes it goes far back as
Hmm.
Vibe FM. Sometimes they talk about my days on live doing the My Daily
Hmm.
Dose of Him, where it was just the focus was just inspiring people, with other people's everyday
Hmm.
stories and realizing the impact. I've met
Yeah.
people who've told me I went to journalism school because of you, and I am where I am now doing
Hmm.
being a blogger, being
Wow.
in a media space because I listened to you. I've had one of the top bloggers in this country,
Wow.
tell me that, Antoine, I'm doing this because I listen to you every day. And it's funny because I'm inspired
Wow.
by his
That's
venture
that's
into
huge.
blogging now. Because what he does is what he does now, and he does it
Hmm.
so he just does it with so much passion. Is what I sometimes see myself doing, or think that what I I could do that too. Or I probably should have taken blogging a bit more
Hmm.
seriously to an extent, because there was a point in time I wanted to do that, and everybody's
Hmm.
tempted to do that at one point, but you always have to bring yourself
Hmm.
back to what is my purpose.
Right.
So hearing him say that at some point to
Right.
me
Right.
personally, I was like, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, this one time I met a young lady who just was honest with me and said during the days where I used to do the daily dose of him, she was at a point of she was suicidal.
Hmm.
She used to think those thoughts, and listening to me every
Hmm.
day would move her to actually speak to somebody. Listen, man, there's a
Yeah.
purpose to it. There's a reason why you found yourself there at a point. There's a reason
Right.
why, despite how much money you probably didn't have to make it to
Yeah.
work, you would still find the need to go.
So I guess it's obvious that it's the impact that wakes you up in the morning, right? That desire to make that impact is
Man, I would say it was and going back to the impact thing, I never really, in doing it, like all my days on air, I never really thought of it as I was having fun. I was doing what I love doing. I was helping other people, but the magnitude or to the extent to which it went to never
Yeah.
really dawned on me till later days on radio or later days doing
Mm.
what I'm doing now. Because then it tells you how you can do
Right.
one thing as far back as in your past, but the impact of whatever you do can follow you for the rest of your life and follow whoever was impacted by it for the rest of their lives as well.
Right.
But what keeps me up at night, it's just
Right.
knowing that there's more to do. And I've had to learn to
Mm.
curb that feeling as you grow, because you have other responsibilities, that I need to get to,
Yeah.
that I need to not necessarily put my hands in, but that I need to help move forward. And I'd say that's what.
I resonate a lot with a lot of what you're saying, which is why hearing you speak kind of reminds me a lot of how I'm also wired, right? From
Mm,
that desire to have impact, and also that
yeah,
desire or that nagging like mental cycle of like, okay, you've had a long career so far, and obviously there's so much left to do, right?
yeah.
You've worked from, you know, A list to C list to up and coming. In your opinion, what do you think makes a successful in Ghana
Strategy.
internationally, just from
Strategy,
your
man. There
standards?
used to be a
Okay,
time
strategy.
I would probably say talent. There used to be a time I'd say that. It makes you last a lifetime. Like the talented people, that the
Right.
music is always going to be timeless. But the success of an artist
Mm-hmm.
is that strategy. You can be, uh,
Right.
you can be a not so good
Right.
artist, but have a great team that puts together an amazing strategy for you, and they'll give you some two hits, just two hits, maybe
Right.
even one, that would make you a successful artist. Okay,
Yeah.
success is also a bit relative. I could
Right.
define successful artists as the type of music you do that would last a lifetime. But let's take the generic sense of success in our time when it comes
Sure.
to the music business. Then you're talking about numbers. That's the definition of
Sure.
success. How many records you're
Sure.
selling, and now how many streams you have, and how big of a brand you are, how bankable you are.
Right.
So in that case, using
Right.
that definition
Right.
of the success of an artist via numbers and your bankability, I would say strategy is the most
Right.
important thing you can have, especially in a day and age where you can get lost in all the noise no matter what you do, you know. And strategy could be for a lot of
Yeah.
people, for gospel artists, they'll tell you what makes you successful is God's favor and grace. It's one part, and I think it's one part of strategy, because if you're
Right.
going to tap into God's favor and grace, there's a certain way you need to live your life, and that's strategy. I'm gonna live my
Right.
life in a way that's going to
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
allow me to tap into God's grace and favor. There are,
That's great. And I would actually like to ask about your other definition that you briefly hinted at, which is sort of making music that lasts a lifetime.
yes,
Like, what does that
yes,
mean for you?
man, it means so much to me, bro. The amount of times I go back and play records that I wasn't even born, or my parents weren't even born when was
Mm-hmm.
recorded, is a lot. It's that's my go-to. I it's I don't. I mean, because of where I am in the industry and what I do, it's required of me, or I need to stay up to date with new artists, new
Yeah.
music, and some of the new artists are as soulful as ever. They do quality music that'll last a lifetime. But my go-to is digging up
Right.
records, reading about artists back then, how they did their thing,
Mm.
and listening to their music, because of the timelessness of it all
Mm-hmm.
and how it still resounds
Yeah.
today. You put on a Whitney Houston song today, my brother, and the quality of that sound, even today, is incredible, and
Yeah.
the substance in the music is still
Right.
so incredible.
Right.
And writing
Right.
songs and realizing that, oh, this artist sang it but she didn't really write it, and then realizing another artist, finding out that another artist wrote it, and then just digging up more of the songs that they wrote.
Yeah.
It's so important. And
So on a similar but slightly different note, what do you think it takes to be a successful radio personality or media personality?
ah I think of talent, yes, a full understanding of what the business entails, because that informs your the delivery of your talent. It informs the
Hmm.
seriousness you attach to your talent and performing your duties, and the discipline you attach to it. So I think I've been on radio, I've been on different stations, but the one thing that finally grounded me and pushed me to a point where I wanted to learn more and probably move above and beyond is understanding how everything is interconnected and comes together. um, it just makes you a better talented or a better presenter, because you understand, if I am doing
Right.
this ad, if I am reading out this LPM, if I
Yeah.
am talking to people, the more I do it in a certain way, or the better I do it, the more listeners I'm gonna have. The more listeners I have, the
Right.
more attractive my station is to
Hmm.
listeners. They tune in. The more numbers are listening in, the more attractive the business is to advertisers, to agencies, to companies. So a full
Right.
understanding, you need
Right.
talent. Another keyword is discipline, but I think a full understanding of
Mm.
how it works helps.
I love it. So I have one more question before we switch gears into the overrated, underrated. The last thing, and I like to ask this of all my guests, even though you've hinted at it a little bit in your conversations about impact.
Oh man, there's this song, bro. I played this song a day before Father's Day, and I dedicated the song to all
Really?
fathers. The song is basically by the group called Magic, the guys who did the song Rude. They've got a song called "How Do You Want to Be
Okay.
Remembered," and I
Yeah.
need everybody who's watching this to
Huh.
go and listen to that song on YouTube, bro. You need to listen to it, and that
Okay.
song rings in my mind. It's one of my
Love it.
favorite songs ever, and it's because it just rings in my mind. How do you want to be remembered, as a sinner, as a saint? Um, how do you want people to think of you on your tombstone? What's going to be written? Think about the steps you take. How do
Right.
you want to be remembered? Yeah, man, it's just a beautiful song, bro.
Right.
So how do I want to be remembered, right, man? And
Yes.
it's you. You wish it's for all the good things, but you're gonna do bad at some point. You're gonna step on some toes. So essentially, at the core of it all, I want to
The
be
human.
remembered as yes, human, but the man who did his best and impacted the world, the people around him, in the best way he could. That's it. Like when I'm gone,
As a blessing. I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
as a
I love
blessing,
it.
man. That's the
That's
answer.
beautiful. So we are going to go the game overrated, underrated. It's a very simple game. I will say a phrase,
Okay,
a word or two, and all you have to say is underrated or overrated. And if you like to explain or defend your answer,
sounds great, bro.
okay, let's dive right in.
Let's go.
Traditional,
Ha! Man, woo! Can I add something to it? Can I say it but then explain it?
whatever you want to say. It's
Listen,
it's
I
your
think
answer.
it's
So
I think it's both. I think it's both in a because I battle with this.
okay.
I think it's overrated to an extent because the internet and new media is so powerful that it determines what goes on traditional radio. But I also think it's underrated today
Hmm.
because a lot of people think, "Hey, internet first," without realizing that there's a whole population of people, there are millions of people who still don't have access to data as much as we have, and we're still, those
Hmm.
of us who determine the
Hmm.
trends and how the country looks on the outside are still in the minority.
You're on. Okay. Dope. Next phrase. Social media.
Yeah, overrated, man.
Okay.
Overrated.
Agree.
Personally, from my perspective, I think it's overrated.
Okay. Uh huh.
It's overrated. There's so many people with that
Uh
tick
huh.
that let me explain that before somebody
All
crucifies me.
right.
I
All
just
right.
think
All right. Cool.
the tick doesn't verify you as a human being giving off positive or whatever it is. That doesn't verify
Hmm.
who you are as a being, a human. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It's great. Marriage.
Underrated, underrated, man. Because
Good answer.
Yeah, I know a lot of people think it's overrated, but I think there's so much more that comes with marriage. So much good,
Hmm.
that comes with marriage. That if you we hear a lot of the bad stuff all the time, bro. You're online, you're hearing all these breakup stories
Right.
and this story. It can really disvim you. And yeah, after 10, 20 years of marriage, they broke up. This is what happened. But there's so much positive, so much growth.
Well, given what's about to happen in your world, that was a very good answer. Next answer.
Yeah, man. I answered correctly. Did
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did. You
man.
did.
I tell you, man. That was a
Because
close
like
one. I
it's
didn't
like
even.
so and then the next phrase, TikTok or next.
Wait. Well, I mean, depends
I
again.
actually
If you're
want
a
to know
music,
why you say that.
if you're a musician, right? If you're a
Hmm.
musician, you
Hmm.
need it's part of it's almost part of every record label strategy now, which is a bit sad. Well, I can't say every record, that's a bit far
Yeah.
reaching. It's on a lot of major labels. Then their strategy is there's TikTok, especially if the video is danceable or the song is danceable, if it's an Afro beat or if it's got
Right.
a dance vibe to it. Even
Right.
if it's a hip hop song, people got their own, challenges to it. But I think it's overrated to an extent
Right.
because business wise, yes, it
Okay.
makes sense. But personally, I think music goes beyond the short. The
I have very mixed opinions on it.
Yeah,
But I think,
yeah,
and I really give my opinion on this segment because I'm like, it's your time. But I will say
yeah,
this, that for anyone who is like listening, I would say yes, it is overrated in the sense of don't build your whole like world and
yeah.
strategy and artistry
On a
just around
TikTok
TikTok.
challenge.
However,
Yeah,
if you're using it as a means of discoverability to reach more prospects, to bring them into a larger world that you are building.
but yeah, totally
Sure,
agree with you,
sure,
man.
sure. All right, two more, two more. Okay, so the next one is, which
Underrated.
to our listeners, if you don't know what hip life is, it is a Ghanaian genre that's essentially hip hop infused with high life, which is a more traditional like 70s and 80s era, um, was like West African a brand of jazz and R&B and funk
Mm,
with our traditional elements as well. So that's what hip
yes.
life is. All right, Antoine, your answer.
Oh man, underrated man. There's so many hip. Oh man, hip life is beautiful. Hip life is just such a
Yeah,
beautiful sound. There are times that there are a lot of DJs that have put together
yeah.
some really dope hip life, and high life mixes. And whenever
Well, Antoine, we have our last phrase, our last word, which
yes,
is Antoine Mensah.
that's a good one. Whoo, underrated, underrated. Um,
Oh, I love
I
it.
don't know.
Uh huh. Let's hear it. I want to know
Underrated.
why.
I find myself today in many situations, and I mean, it, I might sound conceited saying this, but I find myself in many situations and many meetings where, um, because I've been blessed to work in many fields of my work environment. So as a talent
Mm-hmm.
and as a manager of talent, as a manager of talent, and as a manager of the business that hires the talent. So I've been blessed enough to see all sides of the
Mm-hmm.
coin to an extent. I'm still learning a lot of it, and that's the beauty of it because I'm hungry to learn even more. But because of
Mm-hmm.
that, I find myself in
Yeah.
situations where talents are speaking from a point of view, and they think they're speaking to a manager, the new talent especially, to a manager who might not understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm usually silent about it, but it's interesting to hear them out. So in that case, it's like you probably it's a bit of a you're underestimating who you're speaking to. I've also spoken to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
quite a number of people that it's from they're speaking to me as a talent and forgetting that
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the other side and I'm really good at the numbers as well. So in those situations, I'm also quiet
Mm,
because for me, I've learned
mhm.
that in all these situations, you don't say, "Oh, I know it already." No,
So I'm on your Twitter, and let's see, I'm going down. Okay, so is it the further we get away from being the beginner,
yeah,
the more prone we are to losing
yeah,
touch with what it's like to be a beginner. The curse of knowledge is what they call it.
yes, yes, man, and it just speaks volumes. Like
That's deep.
you're learning, you're studying, you're perfecting your art, but in doing that, don't lose touch of how hungry you were back then.
That is wonderful. And that is overrated, underrated section. And honestly, that's about the end
Yes,
of our interview, Antoine. Do you have any
yo, I
last
loved
word
it, bro.
for the audience? Anything
um,
to plug, to promo?
Yo, bro, listen, I'm just going to say this first. Listen and subscribe to this very podcast here and to Papa. He does such amazing music. I'm a fan first. And I got to say that, bro. Bless up. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
bro.
really enjoyed this interview.
Thank you, bro.
It's not every day. I mean, I can count the amount of interviews I've done. And usually I feel like, me too, Charlie. I don't catch that yet. We can relax from when I catch it, then we do the interview. But it's beautiful to share the knowledge and the lessons that I've learned along the way in my life, and it's beautiful that I could do that with you. So I'm just gonna say that first. Secondly, what do I need to plug
Thank you,
in,
bro.
Charlie? Let me be shameless small.
There's anything
For
to,
though
yeah,
I do have this NGO that I help co-found. It's called Ahaban the Greenleaf Foundation. You can find us at ahabanglf.org. So
you.
give and grow in the sense that when you give, you're helping whatever, whoever it is that you're giving to, or whatever it is that you're giving to, you're helping it grow. If it's a person, you're helping them in their growth. If it's a project, you're helping grow
Mm-hmm.
that project, right? And in the same sense, what you don't realize, or you
Right,
realize, is that you're also helping yourself. You're also growing, because in giving, there's a lot that comes in there.
right,
Blessing. I'm pretty sure you guys know. You know everything else that
right.
comes with that. You've heard about it, but so give and grow. So it's a Haban.
Yeah,
Support our projects. Donate if you can. If not, it'll be awesome to have you guys volunteer, depending on where exactly it is that you are. But that's the plug I'm gonna put in there. And I'll just
yeah.
say, drink men's Dobisab when you're out with your
Love it.
friends. And you need something to drink. Who knows? I should sponsor you, Papa.
I love it.
Give you some men's Dobisab.
You,
But
hey,
but yeah, props to my family, especially my brother. I'm just the loudest in the family talking about it, but it's a big thing that our family's been working on for such a long time. So yeah, those are my two plugs,
love it.
Papa. That's it.
Love it.
Thank you so
Love it.
much.
Love
And
it.
I'll just
I
end
love it. I
by
love it. And
by this
you can
quote
sponsor me any day.
that I tell you, sharp. Or we should,
Mm.
you should, yeah, man. We'll talk about that. But man, this show is amazing. Congrats again. And I'm just gonna say something that I used to say every time
Thank you,
in
bro.
signing out of my show. It's all in the mind. It really is. Reality is what you guys make it. It may be your life, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always God's rules you
Yeah.
should be living by. All right.
Mm,
That's it.
mm, mm.
Thank you so much, Papa.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, bro. And unfortunately, I wish this could go on and on and on, but that is about all the time we have. Thank you, Antoine. And thank you to
Yeah.
everyone, to you listening. I have been your host, Papa Versa. Much love to you for watching or listening, for your time, and for your support. Follow me on all socials at PAAPAVERSA. That's Papa Versa. Antoine, where can people find you?
Oh yeah, just look for Antoine underscore Mensah, ANTOINE underscore MENSAH on all the platforms: Twitter, Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm not
Love
on
it.
TikTok yet. You never know.
You never know. I love it. Till next time, as always, take care of yourself and your loved ones. Grace and peace to you.